You know what it is, baby. A little bit of Stranglehold. Clark After Dark, episode number 36, coming right into your living rooms right now, ladies and gentlemen. Live and direct on RaceON.com, coming off the biggest weekend in the history of USRA factory stock racing in Greenwood, Louisiana, at the Boot Hill Speedway. Welcome you guys all into Clark After Dark, episode number 36. It ought to be a good one tonight. As always, joining me, my co-host, week in and week out out of Alexandria, Louisiana. Without further ado, we're not going to waste any time tonight, guys. We got a ton to get to. The biggest weekend in USRA factory stock racing. Cortland Smith joins me now. So many other big races happened to the country this last week in Cortland. Fresh off this 30,000 win factory stock spring nationals, you had the World Modified Dirt Track Championships at Mississippi Thunder in Fountain City, Wisconsin, paying $1,025 for the winner. Also, we got the 31st running of the Dirt Late Model Dream at Eldora Speedway in Rossburg, Ohio this weekend, along with the 19th annual Doug Murphy Memorial returning with USMTS sanctioning at the Boot Hill Speedway. Cortland, I'm not really even sure where to start or how to start this podcast off, candidly. But let's just start it from the top, right? 107 USRA factory stocks checked into the pits at the legendary Boot Hill Speedway on Thursday night. Jump to Friday. 137 cars checked into battle on Friday for the 2 rounds of passing point heat races. We locked in 4 drivers. Those 4 drivers, Justin Whitehead, Brett Frazier, Dustin Henigan, and Christopher Wolf. Of course, Christopher Wolf suffered that disqualification. Keaton Atkinson, who had been really, really impressive in his Boot Hill debut, inherited that 4th spot and took it over. Just absolute heartbreak for Chris Wolf. It really experienced the highs and lows of this sport this weekend. And I didn't know Chris Wolf personally before this weekend, but I went over his car post races. He had just received the news of that disqualification, Cortland, and this man was heartbroken. I mean, he denied an interview with me on Friday. He said, Zach Clark, he said, man, I am just happy to see your face. Evidently, I mean, he thought highly of me, and I thought highly of his driving, right, and everything that he had just put forth onto the Boot Hill Speedway. But the man was so distraught and just absolutely heartbroken. And when he denied the interview, I said, listen, man, you do not have to talk to me. I fully respect the fact that you think that you might say something out of character right now, so it'd be best just to sleep on this one, let the dust settle. And he ended up getting an interview with Jeremy Cross with Dirt Collective the following day, which is, of course, is shooting an awesome documentary for RaceON. So we're really looking forward to that. But, man, just the man seemed to make an honest mistake, Cortland, and I earned a lot of respect for him. Instead of tucking his tail, he showed back up on Saturday to run the soup, started the back of a G-main. No, it did not go his way. But I hope everyone doesn't dismiss the performance that Christopher Wolf out of Boyd, Texas, put forth at a racetrack he had never seen against the factory stock elites this weekend at Boot Hill.
Yeah, he had every reason to pack up and go home after Friday night. You know, like so many people, you could tell when we walked through the pit area on Thursday, they put so much into this race and having your friends and your family, and everybody had this deal circled on the calendar. And then when it got rescheduled, they circled it on the calendar again, and it was just that big of a deal. And man, I can only imagine the heartbreak that is. You know, you worked your tail off all night Friday, and you know you have your lights out performance at the crown jewel of factory stocks. And literally a disqualification happens. And, you know, it is what it is, man. At the end of the day, a rule's a rule. You know, he was heartbroken. I hate that he did not take the interview, because I'd have loved to, you know, the passion, the raw passion. That's why we do this, is the love of this sport and the passion everybody has. And I also fully understand why he didn't want to interview, because I probably wouldn't want to say, I love to talk more than anybody else, and I probably wouldn't want to say anything either after if that would have happened to me. And, but still, like you said, the performance he had, you got to give him a pat on the back. And then to stay there Saturday and still run, he had every excuse under the book to go home, but he didn't, and all the credit to him.
Yeah, Saturday night. So we started off with alphabet soup and the G features. We had 2 G features, we had 2 F features, we had 2 E features, 2 C features, 2 B features, and then finally the 50 lap 30,000 win main event. And until we finally set the starting field, Cortland, this weekend I was trying to put my finger on it all weekend. I talked about it. I told y'all about the message my dad sent me throughout the races on Saturday night, and he said, son, you're getting a little too descriptive, you know, because I feel like I may have been being a little critical of the driving and everything. And I know that we just kind of kept chalking it up that it's 30,000 win, right? They're racing for 30,000. But I really couldn't put my finger and figure out why we had so much carnage and all the yellows. Because, I mean, but at the end of the day, I really do think that that's clearly what this boils down to is it was quite indicative that we were racing for $30,000 this weekend. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, 1,000%. We push these cars to the limits. The drivers are pushing themselves to the limits every single lap already as is, much less you add that little bit more money on top. And it wasn't a little bit more, it was a lot more, you know? So these guys were just, you're already running such a fine line edge. And you know that if you don't drive it off in there, that half foot farther, that's the reason why you're not going to get the passing point and you're going to be sitting in a G main. You know, like it literally all boils down, especially Friday nights, like it boils down to one car. I mean, I think you could look through the
Yeah.
list of probably 12 through 30, and it's literally 1 or 2 cars is the difference. So everybody knows how important it is. Just that one spot. You pass that car in the C main, well, you don't have to pass that car in the B main, you know. So everything was just that much heightened, you know. And it just I don't think it brought out the bad in nobody. I never saw anything that was just too terribly just, oh my gosh, like what in the world are you doing? Like there was never really that moment that I saw. Now I may have missed it and then had to try to watch a replay, and no, I did not go back and watch all of it because I was there for all of it. But you know, just everybody's just trying to get that extra edge, and I think that's all it boiled down to.
Yeah, and yeah, $30,000 on the line. That you'll get that in big time automobile racing, as you like to say. But you know, and I'm not certainly putting anybody at fault. It just seemed like it was just a larger amount of cautions than we typically have, right? An overindulgence amount of cautions. But you know, before we go any further, before we get to this main event breakdown, do you have any other notes or anything worth mentioning? Because I feel like there's going to be a lot of guys who listen back to this podcast like, man, you know, like we had a great weekend. No, we didn't make the main event. We came a spot short here, spot short there, right? Like there's a lot of great drivers who put forth some phenomenal efforts, guys who didn't make the A main, who were just great, who had some bad luck late in the going. But do you have any notes or anything worth mentioning here?
Yeah, I got a couple things I wrote down, and we talked about it enormously building up. Man, racetrack was phenomenal all weekend. I mean, from the first heat race to the end of the heat races Friday night, there was no excuse to why you couldn't get the job done Friday night. If you didn't watch the factory stock heat between Keaton Atkinson and Dalton Faulkner, I believe there was a highlight video put out on the RaceON media pages. Dude, I had people texting me like saying, y'all didn't hype that up enough. And I'm like, no, we did. Like, we tried to. There's just a lot of races, a lot of happen. Like, them dudes were throwing slobber knockers at each other. Like, it was a WWE main event. And what a heat race between those two guys. And I mentioned on the broadcast, like, Keaton comes up, driving up the hill, and he's looking me dead in the face, and he's fist pumping, fired up. And they get out and they embrace each other in the tech pad and give a good old bro side hug, and we're pumped up about it. And that's what we do this for.
And they swap shirts.
Yeah, they swap shirts. Like,
it's
you know,
cool,
mad
man.
respect to them too. It's really, it tells you how hard you can drive and still race clean and have each other's respect. That was a big key to the weekend. Like I said, racetrack was awesome. And then, man, some of these soup runs, I'm gonna throw them out there. I got some stats. Like my boy Hubert Cash passed 24 cars on Saturday. Blaine Murphy had a 20 plus 23 on Saturday as well. Rowdy Day goes from an E to an A, and Tommy Williams goes from a D to an A. You know, and that's some people maybe say that, well, the soup was too much racing, that's what caused all the cautions. But man, if you didn't like that, then Zach, I'm gonna steal yours. You don't like dirt track racing. Like, it was, I mean, there was guys between Hubert Cash, Murphy, Rowdy Day, and Tommy Williams. They all together passed 22 plus cars on Saturday. That's some racing right there. I don't care who you are. That's some racing right there, bud.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the main event here in a minute. We're going to get our winner, of course, waiting in the wings, Dustin Henigan. He passed every car on the racetrack twice. Like, he went to the back twice, had a right front flat with 27 to go. We're going to get to that here in just a second. Dustin is on the hotline. He's waiting for us here in just a second. We'll pull him in here in a few minutes. So let's get to the main event, Cortland. And I wanted to do a deep dive on this race because I feel like it's deserving. Like, right? I mean, we talked about this race. We chewed it up. We spit this thing out. We get rained out. We push it back 4 more weeks. So then we get 4 more races and tune-ups to talk about and dive into this thing. So I really feel like this race is deserving of us giving it a little bit more of a deep dive than we typically would. So 36J, Justin Whitehead, your pole sitter, leads the first lap. But Dustin Henigan, using lessons learned from his great-grandfather, grandfather, and father, Chris Henigan, takes over the race lead, and he's just rolling the bottom. And he looks somewhat comfortable, right? Like, he looks pretty comfortable, and he got sidestepped just a little bit, a slip of the grip. We'll have him on in a minute. We'll ask him what happened over there. So it looked like the wheel, he just maybe caught a little character over there in tube, but that's when Atkinson saw his moment to shine. And literally on the broadcast, I'm talking about it as I'm announcing the race. I said, folks, will patience be utilized here tonight? Atkinson saw his moment, and that's when he took the dive underneath the 16 junior of Henigan for the race lead. And that was on lap number 15. And they went into 3 and 4. And it's your discretion, it's your opinion on whoever you make the call on whether they made contact or not. Now, I can tell you that I know Keaton Atkinson and Dustin have already talked personally. They're good. Everybody else, the fans, y'all's opinions or whatever, and that's fine because y'all are just fans, and that is perfectly fine and respectful. But at the end of the day, we'll get to all the rest of it too. Him driving from the back and back to the front. So they get together. Let's just talk about that real quick. What did you think about that at that point of the race? Because this is right after Brett Frazier gets into 36J of Justin Whitehead, and the entire top 4 just got evaporated. Like, they're gone. They're at the back of the
Yeah.
pack. The guys who qualified in the top 4 out of 137 cars are now in the outhouse. They went in-house to the outhouse quick, fast, and in a damn hurry. And I mean, it was one of the wildest events I've seen at the dirt track in quite some time with $30,000 hanging to the balance.
It was such a shakeup, and I don't think anybody expected that early on, really. I mean, it flipped this whole race on top of its head. And then all of a sudden, Ricky Engel steps in, looks like he's dominating it. And not, like you said, I'll hit the points. We can cover everything here. But just, I mean, just the storylines that created. And, I think that's what bean boozled a lot of people was like, these guys normally don't do this. Like, this isn't supposed to happen. Like, that's not what's supposed to happen is these situations and what all prevailed and what laid out there. But it made this that much better, and you hate to see guys, the top contenders like that get taken out. And it is what it is. I know I've said that once already, but I mean, it is what it is. That's how the race fell. That's just how your night went. And, but it just turned this whole deal upside down. And I'm sitting there thinking like, those are my 4 guys like sitting in the pit road. Like I'm sitting there thinking like, man, these 4 look pretty good early on. Like it's going to be tough to pass these 4 guys. And then all of a sudden, all 4 of them are just sitting there back there in 25th. And you're like, well, now we get to see who makes a run through the field. Ricky Ingles was like, he dominate. I mean, he just turned this whole thing upside down. And it's what we love about racing, man. It was crazy. Like it mind boggled you.
So Ricky Ingles inherits the race lead. The 68-year-old former SUPR late model champion, looking for his first factory stock win in several years. It would have been a great storyline if Ricky Ingles, right? It's been racing at Boot Hill Speedway since the doors opened in 1973. He and Joe Best, the relationship forged that alliance over 33 years of racing history together. They've won so many races together, and that would have been a great storyline. But Dustin Henigan goes to the tail and he's chipping away. He gets all the way back up, I think, the 12th or 13th, and it has to go all the way back to the tail again with 24 laps to go with a left front flat tire. We watched Dustin chip away 1.8 seconds all the way down to 0.543 with 3 to go entering turn number 1. Cortland, I can say this so many times, and unless you were there watching in person and watching these fans go crazy for this young man, and I think that they would have went crazy for a lot of people just by how impressive the drive actually was. This is loaded bases in the bottom of the 9th, full count, batter hits a home run to win the World Series type shit. Like, this was so impressive. And I have been around this sport for a very, very long time. This was one of the most impressive drives that I have ever seen in dirt track racing. And I don't care if it's modifieds, limiteds, factories, super late models, to come from the back twice and to make a final lap pass was one of the most storybook endings that this race needed and deserved after we were there until 2:45 in the morning. But no, really. and also, I loved how classy Ricky Ingles was in defeat. And I loved what you asked him, Cortland. You said, Ricky, I hate to be the one to ask, but is there anything differently you could have done? Like, you shaped the question so well. And I was proud of you for doing that, because how do you ask a man how his heart feels after he just lost $30,000,
I mean, especially my first victory, quote unquote, victory lane interview. Like that was a tough cookie to crack right there. Like, but it just, what, like he said, what do you do, for 40 laps? He's just been out there cruising on his own. Like, I guarantee you, he had no idea, like, and at that point, as fast as he was closing there at the end, I mean, Ricky's a way better driver than me, but I can tell you right now, if I was racing or when I raced and I was leading a feature with under 10 to go, I wasn't looking at nobody. Like, I was focused on what I had to do in front of me, much less 30,000 on the line. And, man, it was just, you hate, and I'm not saying you hated to see it. I hated to be the one to have to ask the question. How about that? That's the way I'll frame it. I didn't hate to see it because the storyline, everything, I know Ricky hated it, but man, it just, it was, you can only imagine the heartbreak in that moment. And for him, like you said, to keep his composure, like just the wily veteran he is, like it was that Ricky Ingles was Ricky Ingles in that situation,
Another thing I found interesting was what Dalton Faulkner said to you down there in his post-race interview said, man, I thought that I was just going to take it easy on my equipment for the first little bit, and these guys blow by me. I dropped back to like 8th or 9th. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like that just kind of goes to show how far Dalton Faulkner has come in his career, right? He continually pushes the progression, and for him to be thinking about being patient in a 50-lap race with 30 grand on the line, that's, because he's taken all these different approaches in these races with 10 grand on the line before, right? So I feel as if he was trying to learn from the mistakes that he has made, potentially in the past for him to come back and to say, this is going to be the approach that I take. And it didn't work out for him again, right? And he says, so at the end, I had to get back up on the wheel. Well, the 27 from Cut and Shoot, Texas ended up driving back up to a solid third place finish. Cortland, driver that I continue to be impressed with. And I said that he was the biggest dark horse or sleeper on the weekend. And I would not have been shocked if we'd have been burning Greenwood, Louisiana to the ground like we did with Dustin. But Josh Daugherty, man, continues to impress. This is his third consecutive factory stock crown jewel. He finished top 5 in the King of the Hill last year. He finished top 5 in the Cajun Classic, and he has just come from 17th to 4 to earn the Hard Charger Award to go 17th to 4th in the inaugural 30,000 to win. Just really impressive for him. Also, Justin Whitehead and Keaton Atkinson both rebounded as well for a top 10. And just another note I have is I'm really glad to see that Joshua Martin is okay after the wild ride that he experienced on Saturday night in the B feature as well. His fourth chassis was pretty well battered, bruised, and mangled, but he climbed right out on his own accord, and he seems to be doing well. And he said he's not sore, and he's feeling pretty good. And they're going to get him a new car built.
Yeah, I hope I did a good job on the broadcast representing that chassis did everything it was supposed to do. And people were like, well, I saw a bend in it. Well, at the end of the day, when 3,000-pound stock cars make contact, you're going to see a bend. And I've seen a lot of bad wrecks where that breaks, and that, I mean, everything did its job. And I really hope I did a good enough job on the broadcast in that moment just to express like Force chassis. Not only are they fast as all get out, but they're also really safe after seeing that.
Indeed, they are. Folks, without further ado, let's just bring in the man of the hour. Out of Marshall, Texas, he's 18 years old. I said he was 17 all weekend. So I'll take that on the chin. Hold on 1 second. Let me find it here for you. There it is. Woohoo! The old applause. There he is, folks. That's a little Henny. Dustin Henigan joining us tonight on Clark After Dark. Dustin, we just broke down the whole race. You heard us talk about it. And as we're talking about it, I know we've referenced you a couple of times, and I know you've had a few days of sleep on this. I said it to you in Victor Lane, young man, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. We were still awake at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning come Sunday, tearing down the race car. But Dustin, has this sunk in yet? Can you believe it? What are your emotions right now, like a few days after the fact?
I feel like I'm just in a big old long dream still. I can't believe it.
He cannot believe it, folks. He feels like he's in a dream. Hey, Cody, our producer, I want you to throw up those final few laps on the bottom. I want Dustin to watch this back here. Dustin, how many times have you watched the replay back of this race?
Probably 50 times.
Really? Why do you keep watching it back again?
I'm just surprised and happy. Just watching the fans, like in the grandstands, this last couple of laps, it just makes it big. And then every time I watch this little group down there in the bottom left, and they're just, if you watch like 7 to go, you see one guy start standing up, pointing down, and then a whole group gets up on the fence.
We're going to get down to it here in just a minute, but on that white flag, or when you took the checkered, that little man that comes to the racetrack, I think with little Eddie Brewer maybe, they're down there. I'm telling you, that kid looked like he was about to do 16 backflips. I mean, it was, and the fans were going nuts. And you know why that they were doing that, Dustin? It's because they watched your great-grandfather, Ace Henigan, win races at this racetrack. They watched your grandfather, Tommy Joe Henigan, win races at this racetrack. And they watch your dad still currently kick everybody's ass and win races all over the Arklatex. And here you are. After winning one race in this car last year at Boot Hill by 7 seconds, you have not driven this car since that time. You get back behind the wheel this weekend. You earn yourself a lock-in spot after Friday. And I mean, I can't imagine what the emotions must be like to be leading a 30,000 win stock car race at your home racetrack, and you have to go to the tail. Can you describe what your feeling was like at that point? Because I know when Jill came over to the radio and said 16 Junior, go to the tail, were you crying? I mean, what were your emotions like?
I did start crying at first. I thought it was all over. And then I went to the back, and then I started making my way back up. But I was overdriving myself a lot. Dad told me he noticed it. And then I had the right front flat, and we got it changed. And then we had a long yellow. And like Dad told me, he thinks that helped me a lot to calm down, settle down in the car, and start being able to drive it.
So when you see you throwing that slider right there in these fans, I mean, when you're coming to the white flag, are you just trying to look out front? I mean, I'm not a race car driver. Like, what's going through your mind as you just taking the white? I mean, are you in there in the car screaming to yourself like, oh, we've got it? Like, what's going on?
when I slid Ricky, I didn't know if if I left room for him to come around on the outside or if he was gonna cross under me. And I knew like I could go hard in a 1 and 2, like I've been able to run him down, but I didn't want to go low and try to protect and be like slow down some momentum. So I just went in and hard and got a huge run off. And I saw him under me a little bit, and then I saw I cleared it. So in 3 and 4, I was expecting a slider, and I was expecting the cross under, making a move to cross under, and I was just setting up a cross under move, but it never slides, so I just stayed in it.
That break your heart to take that? No, it can't break your heart. I mean, you just won 30 grand. But, I said it throughout the broadcast, that last name, Ingles and Henigan's, right? They're synonymous, right? With you've watched Jason and your dad race for so many years, right? It's just so interesting that that's how it boils down to, right, Cortland? I'm sure you would agree. But,
Yeah.
and I know I kind of asked you this in a similar way, but, and I know I've beat the horse dead, but like, man, it was just such an improbable drive back to the front that I almost don't even know where to start with this. I mean, it was just such an impressive drive for you, Dustin. We saw you win modified races, right? You came from eighth and won a feature at RPM last year. We watched you win that factory stock race at Boot Hill by 7 seconds, but we have never seen anything out of you like this. And that's not a disrespect to you and your young racing career. It's just, man, you really proved something on Saturday night to a lot of people that there's no quit in Dustin Henigan. And that's probably the most thing that I would be proud of for you as a driver is that there was no quit in you on Saturday night.
Yeah, usually watching my dad in these big races, something would happen and he would pull in. I would always think, why are you pulling in? Like you had a fast car, you might have had some luck and maybe win. And so to go out there and be able to do that means a lot. And maybe I can help him keep pushing through some big races that he runs.
Dustin, when you make your charge back through, we're sitting there in the infield, and you're watching, and I can get a really good view of you rolling through 1 and 2 and being able to leave so good. I mean, just the car was really straight. The car was so good, but I mean, even Friday night, you proved that, like, hey, I'm not saying you're gonna stick to the bottom all night, all weekend long, but you were really good down there. What made you so good down there? Because I know you got to be finesse down there around the bottom, and we know your dad can do it with the best of them. Was it tips from him? Was the car that good? I mean, what made that 16 junior able to just literally, I mean, the minute somebody shoved a nose, you were gone. You could steer right underneath them, and it wasn't a question. Like, what made everything so good between driver, car? I know it's a combination of both, but just lay that out there to the race fans and the people that are going to listen to this. Like, why was that thing so good, and why were you so maneuverable to get up to the field that many times?
And this car's a rocket. I just go in the corner and I can just hold like slam on the not slam on them, but ease on the brakes, and it tightens the car up. And I kind of brake gas to get it to turn. I'll just try to stay down in there in the moisture and drive off. Uh, Friday night I was loose and I didn't really have no traction in the slick, so I had to try to keep it down there. And then in the feature, or the top four, we went out and practice, and I was just running the middle in the slick, and I felt horrible. I didn't know what to do, and we went in and made a spring change for the feature. And once I able to get in the slick, I had a lot of drive, but I was just trying to keep it on the bottom most I can, try to save my equipment. But that thing, once I came out the corner, it just wanted to shoot.
I gotta ask, my wins were never near as big as this win right here that you got. But man, tell me that feeling whenever you take the checkered and you come around, and I mean your dad, your mom, Rollo, everybody's losing their mind, man. And I know for me, I mean, I might get emotional thinking about when I won and my dad come running across fist pumping. I mean, right there, how like just the you won 30,000, your family's, I mean, how exciting is that for you to know you got that kind of support system and your parents behind you, just all that, man. How awesome was that feeling pulling into victory lane?
It felt good. Coming to the checkered, I started crying. Like once I saw that I had it, I started crying, and then I made a couple laps around, and I was able to toughen up so I didn't cry in my interview and stuff. But I saw a video of Dad and Rollo just the last
Mhm.
2 laps, they were jumping up and down, and I started crying just watching that. Every time I watch it, I get emotional just seeing them two jump up and then just pulling in the victory lane and seeing all my family, friends, everybody just jumping up and cheering.
This is what I want to know. I already mentioned who your family is. You know, your whole family is race. You're the fourth gen hen, is like I like to say. We call you Little Henny. I've called you a couple different monikers. You know, the fourth gen hen. That's pretty impressive, though. I mean, your family is race, and not only have they just raced, they have dominated this sport in their different areas and different eras, right? So, considering who your family is, your last name, Dustin, I don't even know if this is a question. I'm telling you that I know that you have had to felt pressure in your early racing career to perform, right? I'm sure you would agree that your last name, that you feel like you need to go out here and perform because a lot of people are expecting you to be as great as those who came before you, right? And how much of this performance on Saturday has proven to yourself that, like, hey, like, I know that I can do this, but I just proved to everybody else, yeah, I'm a Henigan and I got this. I got this shit too. Like, you've got to feel really good about that. But I mean, to carry on this legacy, right? And I feel like that almost erases a lot of the pressure that may be riding on your shoulders at times.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of pressure. I'm just gonna tell you, like past week, me and Dad talked about future in racing, kind of broke down because like he's gonna start leaning my racing, focusing on me. I got upset, and I was like, because I really don't want him to get out of race car, and I broke down saying I'm not a driver like you are and everything, and to go out this week and be able to win 30 grand, boosting my confidence and everything, but there's a lot of pressure for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, like you said, that's got to boost the confidence, and that's some interesting intel right there, Cortland.
Yeah.
He and Chris and Dustin having a pretty personal conversation about the future and their racing. You know, that's pretty interesting stuff and good stuff there, man. I want to ask you, how much do you think racing these different styles of cars has helped your progression too and your learning curve? Just this season, you've raced your A mod, your CDR mod, you've raced that B mod, you've raced the limited a couple weeks ago. You got second to Derek Grigsby at Boot Hill and you've raced the factory stock. What maybe can you learn from the modified and take over to the factory stock or vice versa, you know, or back and forth? How much has all these different disciplines helped you overall becoming the driver that you are now?
And all these cars you drive, they're completely different driving styles, and it helps me go from different cars to learn like, hey, I can drive like this in this car. In the mod, I can go off in the corner and you're going so quick compared to a factory stock. You have more reaction in the factory. So I can go twice as harder in the corner in a factory than a mod because I know how much time I have to react.
I'm gonna ask something a little bit different. So when you go back to school this next year, or I mean, I know you graduated, but like, but yeah, you graduated. I know you graduated. My bad on that one. School just ended. But
Mhm.
do all your
I bet he
buddies
wishes
and
he
all
was
your
going to school.
yeah, I
He could
guarantee
walk in
it.
there like a
I
big dog.
guarantee.
Yeah.
But like, do all your school buddies understand this? Like, do they get like how big of a deal this thing is? And did anybody was any of your high school friends there? Like, because I don't like this dirt track racing. It's so big to all of us, but when you talk to the general public, you know, it's not the biggest thing ever. So, like, did all your school buddies understand? Did anybody like congratulate you, or do they just think dirt racing some foreign deal and nobody has no idea?
Oh, they're always wanting to go hang out and do stuff, and they always ask me to go do something. Like, I gotta work on the car or watch it, and they're like, "Oh, that's all you do is racing." But I had like about five buddies there, and they were excited. We were all jumping out up and down after, and the next morning they all posted on Snapchat in Victory Lane. And I had everybody from school texting me like 30 grand, really, or just asking about it. And then I had coaches texting me. One coach said, that's like winning a state championship. I was like, yes, sir, I know the feeling of winning this, but I don't know the feeling of a state championship. So just try to explain to them racing. Like they all ask questions, I explain to them. They kind of get it, but most of them don't. But
What's
Yeah,
the
my
what's
buddy.
the
No, go ahead.
silliest? Oh, I was gonna say, what's the silliest question they ask you? Then Zach, you can go. But I've gotten some random ones. What's the silliest question they've ever asked you about racing?
uh, I don't know. Usually there's just how fast are you going and stuff,
Yeah,
but there's been some weird ones I just probably forgot.
yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
Uh, Dustin, you said in Victor Lane the other night, you said you wanted to race for a living. I want to get my name out there. You know as well as I do that Jill Shannon's not going to let you live this down. Jill's gonna, you know what I mean. Like she is as big in your corner as anybody else, and she wants you to be able to race for a living, I'm sure. But she's always going to hound you about having an education. You know how Jill is. So, do you have any plans for college or trade school? I mean, I feel like your dad could have raced for a living, but everybody knew that he had the talent to do so. But raising a family and the expenses to run a national tour was just never really in the cards for Chris. But I mean, I'm sure you'd like to carry your last name to the next generation, try to accomplish what I think your dad could have, but never really had the chance to.
Yeah, Dad's giving me the summer to race and trying to get my name out there and stuff, but I do have a plan of going to college here in Marshall and trying to get my old field stuff to for a future.
Awesome. That's good stuff right there. And all right, and with that 30 grand, I'm not sure how you and Raw or however y'all figured that out or however you split it, but I do know that you've got more money than your sister. Do you plan to share do you plan to share any of that money with Brooklyn?
She's asked me for some money, but I always give her some stuff. I got some money that I give her, but she's gonna be begging. My little cousins, they're about five, and they've been calling me, "Can you take me to Chuck E. Cheese? Could you do this with me?" So they're all wanting something.
Well, you better take them. You better take them.
Uh,
Go ahead, Cortland. I didn't know. I
oh
thought but
no, I mean,
yeah,
dude, I just man, we could say a million things about this kid, man. I'd like I remember what was it 3 or 4 years ago, Dustin? I had to start your pit bike at Manny because you couldn't get it cranked up because your little scrawny legs couldn't push start it. Couldn't get it. Like I mean, dude, just this whole deal, man. And his family, Zach, you hit it. I mean, dude, how
yeah.
like there's no storybook ending better than how this deal went. You know, I know we were there to 3 o'clock in the morning, but boy, we weren't disappointed. I mean, Dustin, dude, Zach may have something else to ask you. I hit everything I really wanted to. He took some of my questions, but dude, congratulations, man. Like you earned every bit of that. And I know, like you said, the video in the infield, I got to watch them, you know, your dad and Rollo and how excited they were, man. The future's bright if you want to chase it. But I will say, Miss Jill's not going to let you leave without getting that education. And I promise you, you're going to need it one day.
Yeah. Man,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
it also had to make you happy to see, you know, Jill's Peppy down there in Victory Lane too. I mean, that was one of the first things I said when I went over there was to check on her to make sure she was still breathing. And I mean that in the most respectful. I love her to death. She made me a nice bag of cookies this past weekend too. I want to shift gears. This is the final few things I want to ask you. Your dad's a 3-time Doug Murphy Memorial Modified winner, $10,000 there in 2010 at Arklatex. This weekend's a big deal. You are close with the Murphy family. You and Kale are good friends. How confident are you to get back in your CDR mod this weekend to race against the elites in the USNTS?
I'm definitely ready for it, but there's going to be a lot of pressure after this past weekend. I just hope to not go out there and spin out in the first corner. But
No
I'm
pressure.
ready.
I want to go ahead. Sorry.
I'm ready to I'm ready to race with the big guys. Try to see what I can do with them. I went to Vado this past at the beginning of the season. Ran with them guys. I made every show last year. I went. I didn't make a single show. My goal this year was to make at least one show, and I went out, was able to make all three, and had a top 10 run with them. And I just want to race with the best to get out there and put my name out there.
Is your modified the favorite? Is your favorite car to drive? I would assume you like the
Yes and
power.
no.
I mean, the power and no. Tell me what you like about the
Yeah.
modified and what you don't like about it.
I like going fast and the way they drive. They're competitive and fun to race, but I just like driving the factory. I don't know. There's something with the factory I always like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just find it very impressive that you can hop behind these different disciplines of cars and have success. You know, you've won in all of them. You've won in a limited, you've won in a factory stock. You haven't won in the B mod yet, but you did get second a couple like a month or so ago. So you've looked good into the B mod too. And here we are with USNTS, man, the Doug Murphy Memorial. That's a big deal here at your home racetrack. The final thing I want to ask you, I know we hit on it a little bit. I'm gonna let you get out of here. What is your next goal in racing? What's the next thing you'd like to accomplish? I'm going to assume I asked you in Victor Lane Saturday, but I also want you to understand when I ask you and I quote or shape this question is because you just said you had pressure but you also have confidence after your win. I want you to understand that there's actually no pressure. I feel like, man, but you're the driver. You know, I want you to understand that there's no pressure from the outside looking in. I don't think, Dustin. I think a lot of people are excited to watch you this weekend and race your modified after you just won this big race. But I want you to understand to just go out and run your race like you always have with that little bit of extra confidence and see what that does for you. And I think it'll go a long way. But where would you like to be in 5 years in racing? Where would you like to be in 5 years in racing? What is your goal?
Uh, Growing up, I always wanted to run USMTS, the touring series. So I wanna try to be able to be running some type of series that's touring around the world and go around traveling. But if it's not in a modified, maybe a late model, I always want to drive a late model and maybe get an opportunity sometime.
One thing you got over your good friend Talon Willis now is you've got a $30,000 win, money in the bank. It's pretty cool too, man. Y'all both, good friends, racing and stuff. And I know y'all like to rib each other and y'all brag on each other. And at the end of the day, I know he was really supportive of the win that you got. And I know it feels good to have them bragging rights, even just for a little bit, doesn't it? Like you and Talon, y'all the new up and comers, just to have them bragging rights has got to feel pretty good.
I think Talon's happy, like just happy as I was. He was over there. He texted me just like that, and last night he was texting me. He was late, and just wanted to say how proud he was and pumped up. Still, I like watching Talon race, and he's definitely the future also.
I love that, man. I love everything you just said, man. That's great. Two young guys supporting each other. Dustin, do you have anything in additional? I want to give you the floor and thank anybody that you want to thank in your racing program or anybody in particular. It could be Miss Marcy, anybody that you want to thank before we let you out of here.
First, I want to thank Rallo for giving me the opportunity to start my racing career in a factory stock, and then throughout the years, giving me a chance to drive it in the big races. My dad, he teaches me a lot and everything, makes me a better driver and everything. My grandpa, he helps me throughout the week. Without him, I probably wouldn't be at the track half the time. My stuff wouldn't be ready. He just teaches me how to work on things. My mom, she's always there for me. My sister, they said she was jumping up and down. I saw a video of her. So, my grandma, she's always helping me out. Anything. Everybody helps on my mod. Mike, he's always there helping. I want to thank Rick Sis. He's getting the motor back ready for Justin's race so we can go back out and chase more money. Club 20, he had some good, the shocks, they're good on the factory stock. I'm trying to thank everybody on the car. I don't run it every week, so I'm trying to thank the factory stock people.
You got S&S
S&S
fishing
Fishing
as
and
well.
Rental, uh, Jones Dirt Work, I believe that's what it is.
Mhm.
RaceON, Comprehensive Cadillac. That thing is a rocket. They build a good chassis, and like Dad said, it's probably one of the best looking chassis builds he's ever seen.
It's something for Chris to say that, and he's built some good cars. He even had a 10-year-old car out there, Bo Perry racing it this weekend and nearly put that baby in the show. Dustin, thank you so much for your time, man. We could not be any more proud of you, man. I know I talked to you personally, man. I've watched you grow up from a young kid. I remember interviewing you down in the infield at Boot Hill. I've sent you the pictures, and we've watched you grow up into being a very, very off the racetrack, you're a very good, young, respectful man, and we can't be any prouder of you for that alone. You just graduated high school. Congratulations on that. You did it with flying colors. You were second team all district as a utility player for the Tatum Eagles this year. Man, you've got it going on right now. You're $30,000 richer, and we couldn't be prouder to have you on Clark After Dark tonight, man. Thank you so much for your time, and hey, enjoy it and ride it until the wheels fall off. Right until the feeling leaves, you hold on to that feeling. That's all that matters. Go listen to Journey. Don't stop believing.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, there he is, folks. He's going to go quietly away into the Marshall, Texas night. That's Dustin Henigan. Little Henny, $30,000 richer. As the Marshall Mafia, they got up on the wheel and they swept it right this weekend. Derek Grigsby
Yeah.
also won the limited modified portion. And I'll tell you what, Cortland, if you look over that top five, that limited, that was a pretty stout top five there come
Yeah.
Saturday night. Like Cody Smith finished third. Trying to remember who got by him there late for second, but I mean, that was no slouches.
Connor, I
It was,
believe. Connor
yeah,
Williams
Connor
and
Williams. Yeah.
yeah, and those steak sauces cars. Steak
Yeah.
sauce gave up the wheel. I was kind of I mean, I'm glad Connor did good, but man, I like seeing my boy Heath race. But
You
yeah,
know what?
that was a really stout.
I want to put some respect on Connor Williams' name because he got
Yeah.
up on the wheel and he passed Cody Smith. Not many drivers do that or get to say that. That's a feather in his cap for a driver who's been in the B mod division for the entirety of this year. I know he
Yeah.
runs the limited sparingly, and he and his brother raced the limited modified class full time for around 10 years. But man, I feel like the Williams twins have really, really stepped their game up to another level. And I think the performance he had Saturday night was just a prime indication of that.
Yeah, and then we've talked about it, how they chase races. If a racetrack's open and running, they're racing. And everybody in that pit area, man, when I walked around and talked to everybody, they're like, dude, you have to race every weekend. Like, you can't let a weekend go by you because you just fall that far off. And it's not that the setups and everything's evolving that fast in our local, regional racing type deal, but just your heightened awareness, your driving, your cues, and everything you do, like, you fall off and you get behind just off of the guys that are racing every weekend. So really good run for him. I was really happy to see Cody Smith and Johnny Torres show up. I kind of hyped up to a couple people like, man, could be a pretty spicy little limited modified race, just because JT's the West Texas, South Texas guy, Cody Smith, the DFW guy, and then Grigsby, who would be our standout Arklatex limited mod guy right now. And it was really cool to see all them three race together. I know that doesn't happen a whole lot.
Yeah, I texted Derek and, told him congratulations as anybody I would. When I see him after the race, he's like, dude, we've got a rocket ship right now. I mean, you could think back a couple years ago, Derek's always won. I don't think he's had a season where he's just went winningless, right? But he'll tell you right now that car is just on he's got the dig, and he's as confident as he's ever been. And hey, you know what? Shout out to Derek Grigsby too for also making the main event in the factory stock. He hadn't raced the factory stock in several years. He was also in a Cadillac chassis. And man, he looked pretty sporty this weekend. There was a few times he said that things weren't quite working expectation, but he got up on the wheel and he earned the main event starting spot on come Saturday night.
Yeah, you can't be mad about a weekend like that. First, I think that was that second night ever out on the Cadillac chassis, what's even cooler is Dustin wins in one. And I think there's probably only two or three Cadillac chassis in that entire field. So for Dustin winning one, then Derek to go in there and run as well as he did in it his second night out. And I talked to him, me and him become pretty good friends over the past couple of years, just because I'd always start parked over there on the bum a slab off my boy Randy Payne and Steven over there, and we become friends. And he told me, he said, dude, this thing's just an old turd. He goes, this thing ain't got no motor. He goes, these old factory stocks are heavy. He goes, this thing's a turd. And but he did turn it around and had a good weekend. And dude, when that 69 car, right now, and I hope the people at home, it's he ain't that car is just so good. It'll get over on that right front and he can go get on the cushion, and he may get tight once or twice, but that thing, he can rip around Boot Hill Speedway better than anybody else in a limited modified, man. That's all there is to it. And the car's got to be good to do it too. And he has so many laps that helps him and all the knowledge, every time he goes out there, he's learning on it. And dude, he can dominate when there's a curve up there at the Boot Hill Speedway.
There's no doubt about it. The week prior, this is 2 in a row for him. Kevin Dupont almost pulled the rabbit out of the hat. He almost got him. As much as we talk about Derek, and I know Derek would agree that having a good crew and good help, Paul Rust, dude, anytime you're at the racetrack, Paul Rust is always working his tail off on that race car. I mean, the in and outs, the factory and the limiteds. You can say what you want about Paul.
God bless.
Paul's a goofy dude. We love Paul, but man, he really does truly work his tail off on both of those units.
He does. I mean, I'm telling you, it's not a single Saturday that he's not pouring sweat and smells like the rear end of a donkey. I'm telling you, he works his tail off. And I'm gonna hit it with just one of them old grandma sayings, bless his heart. That's all I can say about Paul. Nah, I'm just giving him crap because that's how hard he works.
I know. Hey man, let's shift gears. We already warned everybody the pod was going to go a little deep tonight. The final few subjects here, man. How about Drake Troutman winning in Fountain City, Wisconsin, a $100,025 total richer. He wins at Mississippi Thunder. Jim Chisholm, the reigning Mod War 100 winner. Hey, that's the shirt I'm wearing right now. $50,000 coming up this September. Yep. Mod War 100 taking place. Just got off the phone with Chase Allen a couple of days ago. We were on the phone just preparing for this great event. Chris Steppen and I will be back on the mic for that, man. I'm highly anticipating. That was another banger, right? Just 2 great events that have been live and direct on RaceON. Our last 2 biggest broadcasts that we put out, that 50,000 win race, and of course the 30,000 this last weekend. We couldn't be any prouder of the product we put out there. Honestly, we've had a lot of positivity come back on it. But again, shifting gears, Drake Troutman wins. Tyler Nicely, how about them UMP cars, man? You got 2 UMP drivers, first and third. Rodney Sanders, the 5-time USMTS national champion. We'll see him this weekend at Boot Hill. We'll also see Jim Chisholm, and we will see Kyle Strickler, who came home in 5th. But I love Drake Troutman's post on Facebook. If you guys haven't seen it, just go find him on Facebook. You'll see it. Every time I've seen Drake Troutman interview, a lot of people will say that he's kind of boring or he doesn't have a personality, this, that. To me, he just seems like a really grateful person for every opportunity he's been ever earned or been given. I just want to give a lot of props and shout out. I taught Drake Troutman how to eat crawfish this year at Boot Hill Speedway, and he just won $100,000 at Mississippi Thunder. I don't think the crawfish had anything to do with it, but he is a really, really good guy, man. I enjoyed getting to talk with him at Boot Hill earlier this year for the Ronnie Adams. And I'm not surprised. You know, he's a former Gateway Dirt Nationals winner. Drake Troutman is a really, really good race car driver.
Yeah, man, he's the next star, and he's been on the late model national scene now for a while. And I got to know him and his crew guy Hunter about 2 years ago when I went with Bags, and we did a couple weeks of the summer nationals. And when you talk about a kid that works hard, I mean, it was just him and that Hunter most of the time. And they had one other kid that kind of popped in and out every once in a while. But dude, we would drive 5 o'clock in the morning, pull up at a racetrack, and they would unload and start working right then, like immediately. They would unload while it was dark and cool, and unload, work on everything. And then now they may get done about 8 o'clock in the morning. You wouldn't see them till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, which they, I mean, that's just how their schedule runs. That's how you do the road life sometimes. But dude, works his tail off, man. A really cool kid. I say kid, I ain't far off his age. I think he's 20, 21, somewhere around there. We're pretty close in age, but man, just you can't ask for much better, man. He's a really cool kid and a really bright future. And I'm glad to say I kind of know him just a little bit. You know, it's really cool to have those connections and to see him go win races like that in a car that he doesn't race every weekend. You know, he gets to run this sparingly on his off weekends. It's really cool, man. $100,000 richer. There's not many people that can say that in their racing career.
Yeah, with the development, over the last 10 years with streaming and all of that, I feel like we have become a little more attached to a lot of these drivers, and we get to know them, vicariously through, all these different avenues where we watch them, whether they're late models or mods or wherever they may be racing. We kind of become connected to them. We get to know them, just indirectly through the broadcast that we watch. So it is great indeed to see Drake Troutman celebrate a $100,000 victory. He got up on the wheel and earned every single bit of that one. Tyler Nicely was my pick. He came home third. The UMP cars certainly showed up and showed out up in Fountain City. Bob Tim has that place on point, and that is one of the best racetracks in the country. The home of the Dairyland Showdown, World of Outlaws. It's just a really, really badass racetrack, man. There's not much more needs to be said.
Yeah, no, it's elevated itself to that next level. With the 100,000 win mod race and the World of Outlaw races, like it's elevated itself to that next level and upper echelon of like it's starting to become a destination racetrack. Really, like when they did the backdrop and you saw the scenery. Like Natalie asked me, they go, "Where are they racing at?" I said, "That's in Wisconsin." She goes, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, like the mountain, like I guess the little we call them mountains in Louisiana, but the hills in the background and everything, and the events they're having. Racetrack's always phenomenal." Just everything about it, man. Mississippi Thunder Speedway's hitting on all 8 cylinders right now, and you love to see it in our sport. Just another place that you want to go to and have big events at.
Do you know what the highest point in the state of Louisiana is, by the way? You were just talking about it and how tall it is. Don't Google it. Don't cheat.
My hands are here.
So
I got no idea.
So I'm pretty sure whenever we would go on family vacation, we'd go to Bastrop every year in Thanksgiving, right? And we would always travel down I-20. And I'm pretty sure my mom or my dad, I can't remember, told us that that's the highest point in the state of Louisiana, which is right off of I-20. They call it Driscoll Mountain. It's like I think it's in Bienville Parish, but it's like 535 feet. So that just kind of tells you how tall Louisiana stands in accordance to everybody else. But yeah, but we're not as flat as Kansas, right? Like we're not as flat, but it's not like the hill country down in like Burnett, Texas either or anything like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, side note for you. There you have it. Moving along. How about the 31st Dirt Late Model Dream? Another $100,000 payday on the line this weekend for the starting cars in the super late model world. It kicks off tomorrow night, Cortland. I'm so excited. We record the podcast tonight. Tomorrow night, we got Wednesday night to ourselves. We get to watch Flow Racing Night in America. $20,000 to win at Eldora Speedway. Tony Stewart's half-mile racetrack, Rossburg, Ohio. Listen, there's some events in racing that get my blood flowing. This is it. This is the one. This is the race that whenever people ask me, like, what's the race that you would love to most announce? Well, I understand that I'm not going to say I don't have the ability. I know I have the ability to announce the Dirt Late Model Dream. And if anybody tells me I don't, I'm sorry about your luck. I'm just telling you I do. But anyway, what I'm saying, that's not the point of this. I am telling you that is one race, even if I'm not announcing, I have to get to it at least once in my life. I need to get there and at least enjoy it and take it all in, right? Ben Shelton talked about it on the video cast of Michael Rigsby last night, that this is the event. He was there in 2013. He wasn't even there to work. And Roger Slack picked him up out of the side and said, "Hey," and put him to work. And he's been doing it ever since. But anyway, the point being, Everybody on the Flow video cast picked Bobby Pierce to win his first dream this week in Cortland. And I don't know how JD Jonathan Davenport feels about that. And I doubt he really even cares when he's the one standing in victory lane 100,000 richer on Saturday night. But Davenport's the modern day Scott Bloomquist at Eldora, if not better, right, than Bloomer, which have been a really, really wild thing to say. I feel like 10 years ago. Now you can say it with a little bit more confidence. But I'm going to go with a different direction this weekend. Just talking about the dream. It's time for Devin Moran. It's time for Devin Moran to win a crown jewel at the Big E. I'll take Bobby Pierce tomorrow to win Flow Racing Night in America. What are your overall takes, thoughts, opinions, picks for the Dirt Late Model Dream?
100%. Just the most exciting, this is really where you get amped up, the Dirt Late Model Dream. We don't have to talk about how much more historic Eldora is and everything about it. Like you said, Flow Night in America Wednesday, and I believe the format is the split features, like the split fields on Thursday and Friday. So not everybody's going to race together on Thursday and Friday. Really love that because a lot of fans and fan interact. You get a lot of more fan interaction, and the people get to hang out with drivers and crew members and stuff like that. So that seems like a really cool deal. And guys aren't sitting there having to essentially dyno session their motor every single day whenever Eldora is really juiced up, like, of course, when it slicks off, they're not on it as hard, but it just saves everybody tires, equipment, fuel, just all around. Still makes it a really good show. And you said, but everybody taking Bobby Pierce, Devin Moran. What a story that would be for the Moran family to get back in victory lane on the crown jewel night. But I got two picks, and I don't know which one's going to be. And I know I'm taking the low road here with two of them. Man, I'm telling you, Tim McCready, he's hot right now, and it's no doubt that he can win at Eldora. We've seen it before, and just, man, when it comes to 100 lappers, you feel like them older guys, they've just ran so many more of them, and they got just that much more race knowledge, racecraft of how to pace a race and know when to go, know when to not. And so Tim McCready, I feel like it was one that could possibly be a sleeper pick on people, but one that has made his name at Eldora and became the icon that he is and the man that everybody loves. The 76, Brandon Overton, is going to find something by Saturday night. Oh, I'm going to hit me with some music there. The 76, Brandon Overton finds something, man. I know he does have one Lucas win, but he made his name at that place, and he said it the last time he went there. Nobody was talking about him. He's an interview that is like, the dad told him, man, nobody's talking about you. They don't think you can do it. And Brandon's like, that's fine. I don't want them talking about me. I don't want nobody talking about me. And I don't think that this is the least amount that people are talking about Brandon Overton going into Eldora in a long time. And I really think that he may shock the world and get it done on Saturday night. So I took the low road. I got you two people that not a lot of people are talking about with McCready and the 76, but I feel like one of them could possibly get it done Saturday.
Who do you think gets? Who do you think gets? Let's just start off tomorrow night. No, I mean you have to qualify well at Eldora, but I mean sometimes you might end up in the scrambles. I mean there's so many different variables to consider when you race at Eldora. And the invert, the wheel of misfortune as they like to call it. That thing right there can make or break your weekend. But typically, if you're fast and the track is good, I mean you can make gains and you can get into Eldora. But we have seen some really good cars in the past miss the show by one or two spots because that invert wheel did not play them any favors.
Yeah, and it's not talked about enough, and Randy Weaver will come in and probably do a talk about it at some point. But dude, it's so important. I don't think people understand how important it is to be able to turn on the gas at Eldora. Like you see so many people that just go into qualifying and they got to hit the brakes in 1 and 2, and it just kills their lap. And really, like, depending on I don't know the tire rules. So like sometimes if you're on that right rear two and you gas it up, like a lot of times your second lap, your tire is already hot and you got to throw that out the window. So I don't know what the tire rule is. I should have done better at that. But man, you just got to be able to go in there and steer on the gas. And I've heard some crew guys talk about before, like if you can't go in there and steer on the gas on Wednesday, it's going to be a long week, bud, because it takes all week to figure that out. Like got to. It's so important. It's qualifying. It sets you up for everything. And your car's just got to be so good those 1 or 2 laps. And the driver's got to drive it at the end of the day. There's no doubt. Like the drivers are getting it done, but that car's got to be able to steer on the gas. And if it don't, it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, we call that taking a couple of clicks out of the right rear on iRacing. I don't know what it means, the old table or whatever. But no, I mean, if you're watching the broadcast come tomorrow night or when it really matters, when they start qualifying for the Dream on Thursday for the Thursday night portion, and you watch a guy get into turn number 1 and he's stomping the brakes and the front wheels are turned all the way to the left and he's trying to get his car to turn, he ain't going to be in the top 10 and qualifying.
Yeah.
But you just never know. You're just going to have to free that baby up a little bit. A couple
There's
of
a
notable
reason.
drivers. Go ahead.
There's a reason they have engineers figuring out your spring rates, and they're on a spring smasher going down to a 1/16 of an inch and needing a spring to gain 300 pounds in a 1/16 of an inch. Like, there's a reason there's engineers doing this stuff now, because it's that technical.
Absolutely.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good, man. It happens. This is live television. Timmy Colt, Cade Dillard. I'll always say Timmy Colt's from West Monroe, Louisiana. He can reign Prattville, Arkansas all he wants. He's a Louisiana boy at heart. He and Cade Dillard are the two Louisiana soldiers that are headed up there. I'm not sure that BJ or anybody else from from this neck of the woods is. I actually think Comp Kansas is running this week, right?
Yeah, we got a race this weekend.
Yeah, at old number 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the cow patty. So and Dylan Thornton's going to be in that DRT ride that we've talked about here on the podcast a little bit over the last couple of months. So a lot of different great storylines and notes and things to consider to watch at the Dream. Of course, the main guys, your top 10 of the Dirt Late Model top 25 power rankings are all going to be in contention. It just really comes down to who's your favorite. And Bobby Pearson, that tall, cool one throwback wrap, that thing looks pretty sporty. I will say that thing's going to look good in Victor Lane, but it'll also look good getting around the racetrack. Final thing, Cortland, I want to talk about here before we finally wrap this up. Obviously, I hit on it just a little bit there, talking about with Dustin Henigan. This weekend is the 19th annual Doug Murphy Memorial at Boot Hill. Mother Nature didn't play this event too well for several years, but fortunately, we were able to get it back going. This was the best number 1 unsanctioned modified event in the country going. I mean, it was going strong. 5 or 6, 7 years at Arklatex. It started off its fast tracks at Chatham, or Super B now, of course. And, a couple of years ago, it was conversations. I talked to Dougie Murphy a lot, and this event was potentially going to come back when Dylan Scott had the Rev a couple of years ago, and with USMTS sanctioning. And it just didn't work out at the time. But this event means a ton to Dougie. It means a ton to the entire Murphy family. And they're the ones, who win when this event gets put on, because, like I said, it's the 19th annual event. It's 19 years since his father, Doug, left planet Earth. And that's what's most important here. This is a race to honor the life of Doug Murphy. I think sometimes we lose sight of that, how important this is to the Murphy family. It's great to have this event back. We stand on all the cards on how great this race was and the who's who that have won it, right? Terry Phillips has won it. Many a great driver. Jason Hughes has won it. Jared Landers has won it. There's a lot of great drivers who have won and competed in this event. We average over 100 cars for it, and we're just trying to get that special feeling back for it, right? We had a very special thing going. Bad Boy Mowers, title sponsor of this race when it was at Arklatex. We had Comp Cams also as a title sponsor. And then for whatever reason, and unfortunately, this event went to the wayside for several years, Cortland. And again, Mother Nature didn't play as many favors, but it's back. And it's at Boot Hill. It's 5,000 win on Friday night, 10,000 win on Saturday night, with the baddest modified drivers on planet Earth in the form of the USMTS. And should be a great show this weekend.
Excited is the only word I can have to have the Dougie back, and to have USMTS here to make it more of a national event, quote unquote, just even that much more, man. The Doug family, my dad and Dougie were really good friends, and their history runs way back to Chatham and everything. And dude, just like you said, it's crazy. Not oftentimes does a race pass, and I hope I don't take this the wrong way. Does the race hype past the memorial hype? Does that make sense? Like the Dougie went on and broke through that memorial race status and was a national known thing. I mean, like, it was a thing to win the factory stock race at the Dougie. You know what I mean? Like the Doug Murphy Memorial was that race in that midsummer at Arklatex. I remember the year it rained out. I think Jeremy Payne won the Sunday. It was a Sunday day race that Payne won. Me and Dad left church early.
Jeff Larry drove the second.
Yeah. So we left after Sunday school because he heard it rain, because they heard they were running it on Sunday. We went to church, took me to Sunday school, and we hauled butt up there and sat there in the midday and watched that race. And dude, just excited as can be, man. The Murphy family really does mean a lot to us and the Smith family. And I know my dad, he always sponsored the race in some shape or fashion. Really cool to see. Excited the USMTS and I think Arms is co-sanctioned it too, right?
Yes,
I think it's co-sanctioned. So both of them will be there. You don't have to worry about car counts, folks. I'm telling you, if the best modifieds in the country want to be there, they're going to be there. Because I mean, it's a 5,000 win Friday, 10,000 win Saturday. You can't ask for much more at one track. And if anybody's watched any videos at Boot Hill Speedway, I'll go ahead and attest to you, the modifieds are going to rip around there, and it's going to be a show.
It is indeed. It's going to be a ton of fun. and when people ask me, maybe before this past weekend's last 8 laps of that 30,000 race with that Dustin Henigan put forth, but if people were asking me what was one of the most exciting races you've announced or been a part of, I would always say the 2012 Doug Murphy Memorial. Kelly Shryock, Terry Phillips,
Yeah.
Terry. I won't say knocks him over the edge, but he made a bold move to win a $10,000 to win race, and Victor Lane. Terry Phillips said, "Hey man, that's big time racing the way I look at it." Just like but Terry Phillips will be there this weekend, man. We're happy to have the Springfield, Missouri driver, the Indy's Frozen Custard Bloodline race car number 75 back with us this weekend as well, man. It is going to be the who's who. And like we said, the reigning USMTS national champion, Jim Chisholm, out of Osage, Iowa. He continues to be a great story. Finished second just this past week with another 100 grand on the line. And he just won 100 grand earlier this year at Salina High Bank, right? So, I mean, he is the kid's good,
He's
man.
tearing it up.
He is tearing it up, and he's still getting up and down the road with a normal trailer. He doesn't have a toter yet, right? Just impressive. Just impressive.
Oh, what else can you say? Impressive. You hit it. It really is cool to see it. That's the next evolution in modified racing, and he's breaking out big time this year.
Anything in additional you'd like to add before we get out of here, man? Oh yeah, one more thing. I did put it on the preview. Texarkana 67 Speedway. This is when I get torn, man. I love 67. Obviously, Boot Hill Speedway is my home racetrack. Hell, I could say Arklatex is my home track. I could say Lone Star when it was open was my home track. I could say Manny. I frequent all of these places quite a bit. I've called a lot of races at each of them, so they all have a special place in my heart. Obviously, I live in the Texarkana area now, so 67 is closest to me. They do have the ASCS National Sprint Cars come Saturday night. And that's going to be a big deal. Now, I hate it that some people that like sprint cars and modifieds have to pick and choose. But again, it is what it is. If you're a fan of sprint cars, please go support Tim Crawley and the 67 Speedway. They need to have a great crowd to be able to support that purse. The Mod Lights of Arkansas will also be in action along with the Sportsters there on Saturday night. And I like the way we staggered the race divisions at Boot Hill this weekend. It allowed the guys to be able to run Friday at Boot Hill. Like I told them, look at it like we're just swapping nights this weekend, right? 67 usually races on Friday. Go support them on Saturday. Run Boot Hill Friday if you're a Sportster driver. And, man, I never thought that I'd see a race event at Boot Hill, right? We're not running factories on Friday, but that's a good call because after everybody just got done running for 30 grand, a lot of people are trying to get their cars put back together. They're just scheduled to run on Saturday night. So some interesting calls there, but I think smart calls for these track promoters to try to help each other out a little bit. I know it's still kind of difficult, Cortland, for the fans to pick and choose. Maybe you can come to Boot Hill Friday and then go to 67 Saturday. However you elect to do it. I just know that both of these tracks need the most support that they can get. I got Sam Haferteet Jr. to get his 81st career American Sprint Car Series victory and just move a little bit closer to catching Gary Wright.
You take Sam Haferteet. I'll take Blake Hahn. I think Blake Hahn should be there. I'll take Blake Hahn. Give me the man in the 52. I think he's still the 52. I'm pretty sure. Yes. But give me Blake Hahn, man. From Oklahoma. If that thing's anywhere close to the way it was on that Race Receiver Speed Week, bruh, get ready. Like, I'm telling y'all, there's nothing better. To me, and all my race and everything, I love watching qualifying and especially sprint car qualifying. Dude, go there to 67 and watch them dudes rip around that place. It'll be exciting. Like you said, you hit it perfect. Friday night, Boot Hill, all the modifieds are going to be there Friday night and then run up to 67. And if you're torn between the two, you can make both of them, man.
And you can catch them. You can catch 67 Speedway live on Dirt Vision. RaceON will not be there. Obviously, that's a Dirt Vision event. And, Sportsters got added late, but I was going to say, that makes it a little bit easier, for everybody who has RaceON is expecting it to be on RaceON when you don't have any of the regular typical divisions. Like the Sportsters are going to be there. So I get it for those who may want to tune in and watch the Sportsters, but you'll have to watch Dirt Vision on Saturday for 67. Boot Hill will be live on both racindirt.tv as well as RaceOn.com this weekend. The Doug Murphy Memorial and Trenton Berry, the owner, and Austin Kruger Stick will both tell you personally that the Doug Murphy Memorial helped shape and really helped build Racing Dirt, into the future and what it's become. They were along with the event, and when Gene Border and Dougie were putting on the race at Arklatex, back in 2012 was the first year. So been doing stuff with Racing Dirt and those guys for a long time too, man. They do a phenomenal job. So you have your choice this weekend between the two. And I'm really happy, Cortland, that we can have a relationship where we're not trying to step on each other's throats and there's respect there. and that we can both have a stream and we're not fighting for the same people, right? It's there's people in the Midwest who support Racing Dirt who will still get to watch on Racing Dirt, and there's all of our fans down here in Texas that can support and watch live on RaceOn, and it's the best for both worlds, man. There's no sense in making people spend extra their hard-earned money when there's all of these different streaming possibilities out there, man. It's the best thing for both, for the fans and for all involved.
Yeah, 100%. That's the most aggravating thing is in speed weeks when two different streaming companies have the rights to different series and they're running at the same track and you got to flip through tabs and everything. And I don't know the backside of the streaming business. I'm just a race fan and a dude that race that likes to talk. I'm not even going to get into all the backside of all that, but it is nice, man, to not have to sit there and make people buy a different program just to watch their uncle racing a factory stock, you know what I mean? Or a limited modified, whatever it may be. You know, it really is nice when people work together like that.
LSU knocked off University of Little Rock last night to move on to the Super Regionals. So they will move on to the next round. They will play the University of West Virginia Mountaineers in round one of the Super Regionals, hoping that they can put together something else and get our second college baseball national championship in the last 3 years. So keep your eyes on the Tigers. The SEC is not represented very well. Arkansas, LSU's represented, but Ole Miss gets knocked out by Murray State. If you haven't noticed yet, folks, I love sports, but I love college baseball. But proud of the LSU Tigers to finally knock that one off with UALR there yesterday. Without further ado, our final segment of the evening. Cortland, I did not mean to wait all night long to get you here. Earlier when we were talking about Boot Hill, if you had any additional tidbits or anything, I was assuming in my head that that's what we were doing at that time, but I knew that it wasn't as descriptive as it probably should have been for your Cort's Corners. So I'm going to let you hit it now. Here's Cort's Corners this week on Clark After Dark.
First things first, Bo Begnaud wins the American Crate Lake Model Series race at Kennedale Speedway Park from 9th. Track race really well, top, bottom. Bo drove right through the middle and said, see you later, boys. Ended up rubbering there late, but Bo Begnaud takes the win. Rocket Raceway Park, Tom's featured, man. We talked about a lot of modifieds. I hope to see a lot of modifieds at the Doug Murphy Memorial this weekend. But Shane Hartline makes a last lap pass over Mitchell Clement. Really, really exciting there. Mitchell got a little high, hung the right rear over the top of turn 2 there at Rocket. And him and Shane Hartline went off in a 3 and 4 and had a dog fight essentially to get to the checkered first. Really good. Didn't seem like no love or no hurt feelings. I say there. Everybody knew it was a racing deal. Really cool thing. Shane Hartline with the dub at Rocket with the Tom's race. I would be remiss if I did not give the Boot Hill Speedway fans some props on Cort Corners, man. They sat there. We did our little pre-race show. I was running up and down the bleachers. It was hot. They have to sit in the sun longer than anybody else at the Speedway. Boot Hill Speedway fans, y'all showed up, showed out, and y'all waited to see a phenomenal factory stock race. And the last part of Cort's Corners, that was kind of the things I talked about earlier with some of the soup runs. Give me soup on every factory stock big show. I'm sold. I don't want anything else. I don't want 4B mains. We don't need none of that silliness on taking 4 cars and you got 15 studs in a B main. Give me the soups. I know it takes a little longer. We can figure it out though. We can make it work. Soup runs. Blaine Murphy, I hit it past 23 cars from an E to a B. They had to swap rear ends in between features, dude. They were getting after it. Rowdy Day. Rowdy Nation was up on the boards, bud. E to the A. He passed 28 cars. Tommy Williams passed 20 cars going from a D to an A. And let me tell you right now, the man of the show up until about A main time, my boy Hubert Cash. And I hope everybody there gave him all the props he deserved. He had a whole crew on the entire, I called them the back row rowdies at one point. They were all hooping and hollering for my boy Hubert Cash. He had an entire pile in the infield, Zach. Hood, door, quarter panel, bent parts. I mean, they had it all down there. And his crew guys, you could tell they were, if I thought I was gassed at the end of the night, them boys was gassed and they were pumped up about it. They said they had an entire left front suspension that was destroyed and they weren't going to be able to change it in time. And that's probably why his run was going to come to an end. But Hubert Cash, the soup runs between all 3 of them, or 4 of them guys, man. Blaine Murphy, Rowdy Day, Tommy Williams, Hubert Cash. Good job, fellas. I'm sold on the soup runs and factory stock races. That's your Cort's Corners for this episode.
Great job again, as always, man. I love the segment. You do a phenomenal job with it. And just paying attention to everything that's going on, man. And, to find the extra time when you spend all day at school. Well, I guess you're in summertime right now. But either way, teacher found a little bit of time. Yeah.
I watched some races today.
There's a lot of racing and stuff to get to, though, man. There's just so much going on, and with everything we had going on, for you to take a little bit of time to highlight those guys. And those are good racers, too, man. I mentioned it the other night during the race at Boot Hill. Shane Hartline, man, he really impressive at the Model War 100 last year. Model War 100 here, September. I'll give you the official date next week. But He put on a great race at that deal last year. Photo finish with Jim Chisholm, remember, in the qualifier, right?
Yeah.
Like, somebody would have had that on their bingo card. Shane Hartline and Jim Chisholm, the reigning USMTS national champion, photo finish. But Shane Hartline means business. That dude can wheel. Like, he's a really good race car driver. And I think it's time to put a little respect on his name. So props to you for putting that respect on his name here tonight.
Yeah.
There was something else you mentioned. Oh, yeah, Hubert Cash. I watched him, the Little Rock, Arkansas driver. Watched him leaving the racetrack the other night. I walked up to the window of his truck. I said, "Are you Hubert?" Hubert, obviously, because I never met the guy. But I was really impressed with the run that he had the week prior at the Triple Crown Throwdown. And then he showed, had a good run over there between Manny, Boot Hill, and Arklatex. He shows up to Boot Hill this weekend, and like you said, put on a race. He lost the top part of his race car, lost the right side of his race car. But dude, there's no quitting the number 16 car, man. Our winner, Dustin Henigan, 16 Junior, maybe is a good omen for the 16s. But yeah, no, I walked up to his window. I said, "You Hubert?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm Hubert." And he was a lot younger of a guy than I expected him to be. And we talked, and I just thanked him for racing with us, man. And I said, "Look, man, I was really impressed with you this weekend. It's one thing to come up here and to run and put on a show, but it's another thing to come up here and make your presence felt. And, man, you really did that. You should definitely stick a feather in your cap, sir, because you should feel confident about coming up here and running so well at Boot Hill, of all places."
Dude, it was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I don't think I mentioned he passed 24 cars that on Saturday night as well. Like, and that was awesome. I know I hit the numbers already, but let's just hit it again. Blaine Murphy passed 23 cars in Saturday night action. Rowdy Day passed 28, and Tommy Williams passed 20, and Hubert Cash passed 24. I mean, that was, like I said,
the flame car caught flames. He was so fast, he caught flames. Yeah.
Flame car caught flames. Like, dude, I mean, that was really cool that Bubba and them did that and built the storylines a little bit. Like Blaine, he caught fire, literally, whole right rear bearing, axle seal, everything come out of it. And Nate Dixon let him borrow his rear end. I think I've said that hopefully I said that on the broadcast. I know they told me that, and I hope I find a way to add that in there. But dude, it was cool, man. I didn't do a good enough job of representing the stories of all the crew guys coming in there telling me, like, man, we had to do this, this, and this. And I hope I did them justice. And if I didn't, man, guys, I apologize, man. It was a heck of a show, and I was doing the best I could.
I know a lot of people have been opinionated about the Henigan Atkinson deal that happened in 3 and 4. And I know that a lot of people ride with Keaton, and they, they're fans of him, and as they should. But I just wanted to tip my cap to Keaton Atkinson again. I think that he had a great run this weekend, drove back to 8th in his factory stock debut at a track he'd never been to. And I know we beat the horse dead on that, but it's one thing to come against, to have, he had to have a lot of expectation on his shoulders too, right? And for him to come through and deliver with that kind of expectation was next level. I thought that he was really impressive this weekend, along with a lot of other great guys, but we don't typically see Keaton over here running a factory stock in Louisiana. So I felt like that was a notable performance and needed to be noted. Despite not getting the results I think that he wanted after having a good race car and having a really, really good weekend. But what he said to me as we were talking Saturday night and he walked away into the Greenwood night, he turned around. I said, "Good run this weekend, man. Like, don't hang your head." He turned around and looked at me. He winked at me. He said, "They're coming to my house in 2 weeks." I said, "I love it. I love your confidence." He said, "They're coming to my house in 2 weeks. $10,000 on the line at Texarkana 67 Speedway for Justin Whitehead's Mike Parker Memorial. And if you think that 24K car ain't going to be up front or trying to vie for the race win, you ain't watching racing right now, because Keaton Atkinson is coming and he's going for broke."
Yeah, if you don't think he ain't showing up to show out, you can just hop in the pond if you're gonna be a silly goose. You know what I mean? Like, you go hop in that pond, because my boy's gonna send it. He ain't found a top sign. He hasn't found a top sign that he doesn't mind going up there and ripping on.
There you have it, folks. Well, Cortland, anything in additional, man? We're gonna wrap this baby up, man. My internet kind of cut off there, had to hop back in. But that being said, man, we're just gonna hop away into the night here with a little bit of corn falling away from me. Everybody be safe, be blessed, and be a blessing. We'll see you back here next Wednesday afternoon. Thank y'all for tuning in to Clark After Dark.
Holla, catch you later.